Привет, друзья! Как дела? My name is Fedor and welcome to Be Fluent in Russian podcast. Today we have a slightly different topic than we typically do. We're not going to be talking about any Russian text, not going to be breaking down any Russian words and things like that. Today I want to take this time to talk about something that is more important than any individual text or anything else. It's successful learning habits. And I'm happy that we now have this format of a podcast because I can really not limit myself to just a short format of a video and talk about each of these things that I have prepared for you guys in full length and not really, take shortcuts and just talk about most important things. I can elaborate on things that I want to say and things like that. And I hope that this will be more, in depth and you will understand certain things that I might have shared before on YouTube as well. We surely have shared these things in our camps and things like that. So you're getting, again, a more of like in-depth things that we do in our, paid intensives and websites. So let's jump right into this, and I'll be talking about each thing individually, but then kind of combining it all to make sense of it all at once. First is study regularly. The first habit that you must learn is to study regularly. Let me put this paper away so it won't be too much noise on the microphone. Study regularly, which means that you need to really have a certain habit that you learn Russian every week, every other day, every day. It's up to you. It's up to your own schedule. But you do have some sort of regularity. Because in Russian, it's not about finding the trick kind of material or the most important resource. It's not about that. It's about just simply grinding through your Russian. Is to learn new words every time you practice, is to speak Russian on a daily basis. It's like, think of it as getting to doing 100 push-ups at once, okay? In one set, 100 push-ups, that's it. Not 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. No, 100 all at once. What's the best way to do it? Is just to do push-ups regularly, right? There is no program that you can take that will teach you to do 100 push-ups quicker than the other. No, it's all about the effort that you're putting into it. So with languages, it's the same thing, but I would say that it's not 100 push-ups, maybe close to 1,000 push-ups, So just really a matter of doing it over and over and over again. And the best way to do it is to have some sort of regularity that you're doing it with. Is you establish that for yourself. If you're a busy person, a busy mom with a lot of kids and a side hustle or something, then you might do it once a week on a weekend. If you are more of a, free person, maybe going to school and you have more free time, you can do it every day. So it really depends on your own experience and your own goals. But do have some sort of regularity. Don't give it up to chance, because if you're giving it up to chance, then most likely it won't happen, because other things will take over much more easily than if you do have some sort of schedule that you are sticking to. Okay, so study regularly, establish that time for yourself, and also don't just say, okay, once a week or once a day or twice a week or 3 times a week. Also think of the time that you will do it. Think of the actual time that you are sitting down to learn Russian. It can be in the morning, can be in the evening, it can be during your lunch at work, whatever it is. Also think of the time when you will do it. Kind of pinpoint the exact time that you want to learn Russian versus, again, leaving it up to chance of saying, oh, I'm going to do it 3 times a week. But then Monday goes by, Tuesday goes by, Wednesday goes by, Thursday goes by, no Russian. And because you said I have to do it 3 times a week, you kind of cram Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then what if something comes up on the Saturday, right? And you will just simply miss your routine. So establish the time that you're going to do it in and stick to that. Next is learn vocabulary every time you practice Russian. Every time you sit down to learn Russian, do at least 15 minutes of vocabulary. Think about it. Vocabulary is the language. I'm saying words right now. The whole sentence is just simply words. So knowing words is crucial. Yes, grammar is important, but grammar is mostly just structuring the words that you know. What if you know 0 words and you know all the grammar of Russian? It's not going to be any useful in the conversation. So make sure to first prioritize words. Whatever you do, whatever your focus is, learn vocabulary first. Dedicate some time before you do anything else. Okay? So learn vocabulary every time you practice. The reason why I say this is because a lot of different programs, a lot of different YouTube videos, a lot of different courses, they all suggest the importance of grammar, most importantly. And I think the reason for it is because grammar is simply easier to teach. So it's easier for a teacher to occupy the student's time with grammar. Because as a teacher, you cannot make a student practice vocabulary. There is no way that me as a teacher, I can occupy you for an hour talking about vocabulary, because vocabulary is self-learned. It's like doing the push-ups. As a coach, I cannot do the push-ups for you, right? So you have to do the vocabulary yourself. And that's why a lot of teachers, they fall into this kind of habit of only teaching grammar. Because as a teacher, that makes me look, occupied. That makes me look like I'm doing my job. But in fact, we are not giving the students what they need. And so as a teacher who is online, who is not spending any time with you personally, I don't have to make myself look occupied. I guarantee you that if you switch your focus more to vocabulary, you'll benefit a lot more than simply focusing on grammar. Speaking and listening will come as well. Those are just the skills that you develop once you build up your good vocabulary foundation. Next, a very important key habit is keep your focus on communication. In fact, I would say, first and foremost, ask yourself, why are you learning Russian? What is the goal? What are you trying to accomplish? If you were to reach your goal in Russian right now, what would it look like? Is it speaking to your Russian family? Or is it reading Russian literature? Maybe you are in love with Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, or Pushkin, or whoever it is, and you just simply want to read that. Now, if those goals are perfectly fine, we're all different, we all need different things in our lives. But if you are to speak Russian, your approach to learning will be vastly different than if you were to read Russian. So just simply figure out what you are learning Russian for. But I know that for 95% of you guys, it's the communication. You want to speak Russian to your friends, to your family. Maybe you have a goal of going to Russia and you want to be okay there. So for the vast majority of you guys, it's going to be communication. And I would say keep your communication as number one priority. Every time you learn something, ask yourself a question. Is this going to improve my communication? Is this, in fact, a better question would be something like this. Is this the most impact or the most results I will get out of my time right now when it comes to my communication? Meaning that if I spend an hour of my time doing thing A, will it be the most impactful or the most beneficial compared to thing B and thing C? Okay? So ask yourself that question. What is the most beneficial thing that I can do for myself right now to improve my communication? A lot of the times it's going to be learning more words or practicing more words. I can guarantee that right now. Vocabulary is going to be at the forefront of your Russian for the longest, okay? But anyway, this question of what can I spend my time on right now that will bring me the most results will eliminate a lot of useless things. For example, I've had multiple students come to me and ask me questions like, okay, Fedor, in cases, when I learn dative, then this meaning is also common compared to this meaning, so which one should I focus on? And then I ask them a question. How often do you use dative case? Oh, well, not often. I'm just learning the theory of it so I can be prepared. And then turns out that their level is not even there yet to use cases. They're not at that point yet in their own Russian. And so they're learning something that's way out of their reach or way out of what will bring them immediate results. So they end up wasting their time on things that truly are not important to them in that moment of time. So by asking yourself a question, what is the most useful thing that I can do for my communication right now? You will eliminate a lot of useless things that are not important to you at the moment. Trust me. There is no way that you can avoid any topic in Russian if you were to speak fluently, but there is a time and place for everything. You first need to learn good enough vocabulary, then get into grammar. Learning grammar first will not be any useful. In fact, it might be even discouraging to you to learn something that is not really impactful. So keep communication as number one priority whenever you're learning Russian. Next is test yourself. Test yourself. Most importantly, test yourself with speaking to other people. We as people, we tend to think of ourselves, in the best manner possible. We think that we are doing the best thing that we can do, and we can never do anything wrong. That's what we tend to think of ourselves. But testing yourself will really put yourself at check. You will check yourself and say, okay, am I actually understanding this particular grammar topic? Am I actually understanding how to use this particular word? By testing yourself, you allow yourself to self-assess and to realistically look at your own level of Russian. Not have an impression that, I am beginner or I am intermediate. No, when you test yourself, you are giving yourself an opportunity to understand exactly where you are. And testing yourself can be done in multiple different ways. I recommend you guys test yourself by speaking to a Russian native. That's going to be the ultimate test. For a lot of you guys, that's what you want to accomplish, is to speak to a native without any issues or feel like you're speaking with them on the same level. So test yourself from time to time speaking to a Russian native. See how well you're going to do in a conversation with them. Okay? Maybe even take notes every time you speak. Let's say you can do that every month or so, right? So let's say you're doing it on the first of every month. You're talking about some topic that you are preparing or you're not preparing, it's up to you. So you're speaking to them, and after that conversation, ask yourself a few questions. Okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, how well did I do? Okay, maybe it's a 5. Why is it a 5? What worked? What didn't work? Okay, this worked and this didn't work. Okay, I think I'm going to be focusing on this thing for the next month. Maybe other questions can be something like this. From what I've been recently learning, was I able to use it? Okay, I learned past tense. Did we talk about past tense? Yes, we did. And I spoke pretty well about the past tense. Check mark. So you are self-assessing. You are putting yourself at check. You see how well you are doing in that particular moment. So there's going to be little room for confusion or little room for, false image of yourself. And the more you do that, the more clear your path will be. The sooner you can address your issues and the sooner you can address your imperfections that are limiting your communication. If you simply are learning by yourself with a computer or with a piece of paper and never testing exactly how much you know of what you're learning, you can end up in a place where you learn something very foundational and you didn't learn it that well. And so you keep on learning on top of that, keep building on top of that. But then when you test yourself, it turns out that whatever you've been building on was pretty weak. So your initial basic foundational knowledge was weak, and you've been building on top of that, and your foundation can be very, very shaky, and everything might just fall. If you test yourself regularly on the things that you're learning, you will avoid those things, and you'll patch up exactly where you need to patch up. If you're on a ship going into the river, you need a certain kind of, thickness of the ship, of the boat, right? But if you're going into the ocean, you need thicker, walls. I'm not sure what to call them. Thicker walls of the ship. And if you don't test that prior to going into the ocean, your ship will sink. So if you need to take it slower, you can do that if you know where you are lacking in your Russian language. Okay? Other things that you can do, I'm not a huge fan of testing yourself, formally, having a test of, A1, A2, B1, B2, things like that. I just think that those are very limited to grammar and maybe vocabulary. Actual conversation is almost never tested. Unless, of course, you're going into more advanced kind of a test, but those typically are not free. So the quickest one to do is just simply speaking to a native. Okay? And the very last one, a great habit that everyone should, I guess, if you were to take away one thing from this podcast, is this thing right here. Speak more Russian. Speak more Russian. We are very scared as students to speak and to practice what we are learning and to put it to test and to put it into actual, dialogue with someone. We are scared because we might feel embarrassed that we're not that good, or we don't say things properly, or making a lot of mistakes. Our educational system has taught us that mistakes are bad, and we're trying to avoid it as much as we can. And so we are avoiding speaking as well. But in fact, speaking is the best thing that you can do as a learner, especially if you're just starting out and you haven't spoken before. Speaking unlocks multiple things that other things just simply cannot unlock. Speaking, again, you're testing yourself. You've seen where you are falling short. With speaking, you're practicing what you have learned, and sometimes by practicing, it's making it stronger. It's making it more, you're more confident in what you're saying and how you make sentences, etc. Thirdly, you're building up that confidence. You're building up a confidence before you go, let's say, into Russia, where you can only use Russian. You are building up that confidence beforehand, okay? And last, I guess, point of speaking is that whenever you're speaking, kind of piggyback off what I said before, is you're learning where you're falling short when it comes to vocabulary. You're learning the words that you need to know, but you don't know them just yet. For example, I guess a very recent example is me and my wife. I challenged her to go into the store. We are in Russia now. I challenged her to go to the store and get things herself, only speaking Russian to me and to people around her, okay? And she forgot the word how to say heavy. It's a heavy bag. She said, she showed me as a gesture, right? How do I say this? It's тяжело. And that's yes, that's correct. Тяжело. Тяжело means heavy. She said тяжелый пакет, a heavy bag. So she forgot the word for heavy, but best believe because she tried to remember it, she'll now go back and learn it again, so that the next time she's going to the store, she won't have that issue anymore. So speaking unlocks multiple of useful things for you as a learner. And yeah, I think that's all that I have for you guys today. I would say, a common thing among all of this is just simply do not try to trick yourself. Do not try to convince yourself that you're better than you are. Face your imperfections, face your issues, face your mistakes. It's okay if you know your mistakes and you embrace them. If you fix them, that's great. That's the greatest outcome. The worst thing that can happen is you don't know your mistakes and you're not willing to find them out. You're not willing to find your mistakes. You're kind of avoiding them. And that will lead to a lot of loopholes. Not loopholes, I guess, like holes in your knowledge that may only show up later in your learning. And when they show up later in your learning, it might be too late to fix them. Because like I said, you build up so much on top of them that if you take that out, your whole knowledge will simply fall. Okay, so that's all that I have for you guys for this podcast in particular. If you want more help in your structured learning, check out a BFluent class somewhere in the description. If you're on YouTube, it's going to be in the description for sure. On the podcast, I'm not sure if I can add that in. I will try. And if you cannot find it on your podcast, just simply go to befluentinrussian.com/register. You'll find all the information there, everything that you would need to know about our BFluent class and what we have for you. But just to be short, it's going to be a lot of great courses and exercise and other materials that will help you guys get to fluency in the quickest way possible. That's all. I'll see you guys in the next one.